Research has shown that a child with a college savings account is 3 times more likely to attend college and 4 times more likely to graduate from college than a child without one. So a college education is one of the best gifts you can give a child. It is also one of the most expensive, and a college savings account can help that education become affordable and minimize the need to take out college loans. I'm Anthony Contrucci. Join me today from the University of Notre Dame, where we will learn about preparing financially for your child's college education.
This program is made possible by PSCA, the Plan Sponsor Council of America. For over 60 years, PSCA has served retirement plan sponsors through education, advocacy, and research. Information at psca.org or at 312-419-1863.
Mary, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm excited to talk about this topic with you, saving for college. It's a topic that, it's really on the forefront of most Americans' minds today. And my first question, really kind of starting at that 100,000-foot level, is how much does it cost for a 4-year college today?
Yeah, so for 4-year public school, today you're looking at an average rate of about $18,000. For a 4-year private school, you're looking at about $41,000. That's the sticker price that includes tuition, fees, room and board. What's important to remember is the vast majority of families actually receive some sort of financial aid. And so when you take out the financial aid from the sticker price, you're left with something called the net cost. And that net cost for a public school is going to be right around $12,600, and the net cost for a private school is going to be right around $23,000 a year.
Interesting. So you said the majority of families or children are receiving financial aid. Do you have some just average percentages? I mean, what percentage of the population would you say?
Well over 80% of families receive financial aid.
I think some of our viewers are probably watching the show today and saying, okay, these are some average numbers, but how is it going to impact me? My family, my child, and my children. How can one at home start to estimate how much it's going to cost for their children to go to college?
There's some fantastic expected family contribution calculators that are out there, or net price calculators that are out there. And so you could go to finaid.org and you type in, what the school is that you're looking at, the age of your child. You can actually estimate what you think tuition increases are going to be, so you can play with it, put in a 3% increase rate, a 5% increase rate, 7% increase rate, and just kind of get a sense of what college is going to cost for your child for a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. In addition, each school actually has a net price calculator on their website where you can go in and you can put in some of your specific financial information. So maybe your assets, how much in assets you have, what's your income, and then from there it'll give you an estimated net cost or expected family contribution.
It's interesting. You mentioned two things there. You mentioned assets and you mentioned income. And so I noticed, in the conversation I've had over the years with families, they get afraid because a lot of them are relying on financial aid. And so they're afraid to maybe start saving too early or to accumulate too much because it can maybe impact them when they're going through that financial aid process. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that is the number one question we get in all of our education sessions is, when I save for college, is that going to impact my financial aid calculation? Is it going to decrease my eligibility for financial aid? And that's absolutely not the case. That is the number one myth. When you're saving for college, what you're doing is you're putting resources aside to help you with those college expenses. And it does not impact financial aid. So I think one of the questions people also ask is how does a college savings account actually work with the expected family contribution? How does it impact the expected family contribution? The piece that the family actually has to share for their college experience. And it's important to understand that expected family contribution is comprised of two different avenues. One is the student contribution and the other is the parent contribution. Within each of those is an income and an asset allocation. For a child, that asset allocation, any money that they have in a savings account, is going to be assessed right around 20%, or right exactly 20%. That's not the case for college savings vehicles. College savings vehicles and college savings accounts are actually considered parent assets. Parent assets, when they're looking at it and there are certain protections in place. So retirement accounts are excluded from the calculation. The value of the primary residence is excluded from the calculation. The value of your family-owned business, that's also excluded from the calculation. And then from there, the assets are assessed based on a graduated scale from anywhere from 0 to 5.65% maximum. So if you have $50,000 sitting in a college savings account, you have, $2,300 being assessed into, if I did my math right, is going to actually roll into the expected family contribution.
Okay, interesting. One of the things we talk a lot about on Money Sense is budgeting and financial planning, and I think the thing I stress a lot is that time is your friend, right?
Yes.
So when should a family start to save for college for their children or for that child?
It's never too late to start saving.
Okay.
Ideally, we always say if you have a newborn, if you have a toddler, the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. If you have $100 a month going into a college savings account from the time your child is born all the way till they're 18, you'll have about $37,000 saved, and that's using a 5% asset growth rate. If you wait till that child is 10 and you start saving that $100 a month, you're looking at only having about $17,000. So still pretty impactful and able to help you, but definitely, it's never too late to start. Even if your child is in high school, if your child is in college, your child is, freshman year in college, there are definitely vehicles that you can use to help you with, junior and senior year or just senior year alone.
What are some ideas, maybe over the years, the conversation you've had with families, how can people start to maybe find some additional, income to save and start that budgeting process?
Yeah, so really, starting early, saving regularly is, creating that college savings budget is a fantastic way to go. Even if it's just $10 a month. Every dollar and every contribution counts. Every dollar, every contribution grows. So whatever you're able to do is really helpful. In terms of extra income opportunities, we tell families really look inside your budget and see, what type of lifestyle changes that you could make to get some money to put into a college savings plan. Or maybe there's alternative ideas where maybe you're done with your college loans. And so rather than making the payments, you're done with yours, put those into a college savings plan. Or you finish a car payment, put those resources in there.
Continue to pay, but now pay yourself.
Exactly. Okay.
And these are great points, and I guess they make a lot of sense to me. They resonate with me 100%. I think for some of our viewers, you use the term lifestyle change, and some people it's like that's a big change. So what are maybe some, again, to your point, some simple modifications to maybe a family or individual's behavior to start finding and creating some of that budget to save? Are there like little things people can start to do, kind of consistent with those baby steps in life?
Yeah. So we could talk about the latte factor.
Right.
So don't cut out 2 lattes a week and take that $10 and put that into a college savings account. We could talk about maybe minimizing dining out. So we're not going to dine out.
No, great points. It's something I talk about that a lot. The latte factor. You think about it. Even if you're talking about 5 days a week,
right.
And if you're saving, you don't go and you buy that $5 coffee. Times 5, that's $25 a week. Times 4 weeks a month. That's your $100 right there. And I think sometimes people get intimidated by by this, this concept of major modifications of behavior, not realizing that small modifications of behavior can be so impactful. And then when you add to that the concept of time, and then the concept of interest and compound interest, how over a long period of time you can have some significant funds in the future.
Absolutely, and I think one of the important ways to really boost that college savings account is look at gifting as an opportunity. So very often people have birthday gifts, Christmas gifts, preschool graduation, high school graduation. Those are all opportunities where you can take those checks and you can actually deposit them directly into the college savings account and reap some benefits that way with those deposits. Very often we always like to have have children get involved. So they might receive resources and they might receive gifting. They might have jobs. They might be lawn mowing for the summer. They might have babysitting options. And so the more that they're involved, the more that they can actually put towards the college savings plan, the more that they've actually like bought into, college savings is important. And it's something that needs to be done, holistically from like the entire family's perspective.
Right. No, and I think, how powerful psychologically for that young child. I think, and I hate to speak in generalities, but a lot of times you get that money from the grandparent or the aunt or uncle, and they go out, what do? They buy that toy. But to really sit down with maybe your child from a young age, whether that's 5, 10, 15, and say, hey, listen, you have this money, we're going to delay this gratification. You're going to go to college. Right. What a powerful statement to make to the average person, and to actually maybe take them to the bank and to actually deposit that money. So I think a lot of times people tend to think about budgeting and finance and personal finance in like silos. So I need to save for retirement, and I need to save for my kids to go to college, and they don't realize at the end of the day this is part of one master budget. And you really have to think of it that way. It's almost like we did an episode on this book called 3 Cups, and it was financial wellness for children, for 5 and 6 year olds. And again, simple concept. The saving, the giving, and the spending cup, and how you can do all 3 at once. You can save for college, you can plan for your retirement, and do all of those things. And I think sometimes people just get intimidated by it because they think in order to be impactful, you need to make these, to your point earlier, these major lifestyle changes. And I think they need to realize that, again, you can find these minor modifications to your behavior that over time can be so impactful. So I'd love for maybe if you can share some ideas for our viewers on how they can modify their behavior in ways that over time can be impactful.
If you live in the city, maybe you take public transportation a couple of days a week, and the savings from parking can actually go into a college savings fund. If you typically have a latte every morning or a Diet Coke, and all of these things, they add up. Maybe you dine out only twice a month instead of every week. Maybe you make pizza at home instead of ordering in. There's all sorts of different things that you could do. Maybe you do movies inside the house versus at the movie theater. The vast majority of food and entertainment, those are things that have natural costs that could potentially be reduced, and those are some of the lifestyle changes. So I think these are different ways that you could modify your lifestyle. Maybe you do a staycation instead of going to Disney every year. There's all sorts of different ways that you could look at finding money to save and putting that aside.
Right. And I think you touched on something, and one thing I'll just kind of share personally is I have a saying that I say a lot is it's not really where I am, it's kind of who I'm with. So to your point about that Disney versus the staycation, yes, Disney's incredible, but again, sometimes just being together as a family and spend that time together. But I think, in my opinion, the big disconnect between again this concept of instant gratification versus delayed is, again, not because people don't want to save. And not because people don't want to have a budget, but they just don't think that latte or that Diet Coke is going to make a difference. And so something I talk a lot about on a day-to-day basis is just this concept, again, of small amounts of money. So think of it this way. To save $100, approximately $100 a month, that's only $3 a day. And if you could save that, even just forget even saving for college right now, talk about even just planning for the future, for retirement, or for a rainy day fund, and save that over a 35-year period. That's 420 months that you could be saving this $100. Well, in 35 years, that's approximately $42,000. Right. Now, what's really impactful and powerful about that is if you add interest to that now, let's say you have an annualized return, let's say of 7.3% over 35 years. Now that lump sum's not just $42,000 and change, it's almost $200,000. And what's really impressive about that is that almost 150 of that was just interest, compound interest. And so it's the same thing I think applies and holds true to saving for college, that again, finding those minor modifications to behavior, not the major things. We're not saying, park your car and ride a bike everywhere.
No,
right,
no,
but we're saying is finding those little things. Maybe you go from dining out maybe, 4 times a month to 3 times a month, or twice a month, that over time that it can be so impactful.
So there might be opportunities for extra income. Maybe you have a spouse that stayed home while the kids were really young and they're going back to work. Maybe they're working part-time, maybe they're going back full-time. There's an opportunity there for extra income to be going into a college savings plan. Maybe you've finished paying your school loans. There's an opportunity for you to take that school loan payment, the same exact payment, and put it towards your children's college savings plan. Or maybe it's a car payment. There's all different ways that you might have within your budget, or that might come up throughout the year. So you might have a merit increase. Maybe you take a portion of your merit increase and put it in the college savings plan, or maybe you receive a bonus for a fantastic job done at work. So there's all different ways if you start to like think about it creatively and look at, all the different resources that you're given, all the different income opportunities that you're given. Maybe you pick up an extra job in around the holidays, and maybe that's an opportunity. Also children, when children are in elementary school or late elementary school and middle school and high school, a lot of them have jobs, whether it's a babysitting job, a landscaping job, maybe they mow lawns. These are opportunities for them to actually take money and to the 3 cups, save it in their college savings plan. There's really no reason for them not to participate in that and buying into, I'm going to college, and put their resources aside for that as well.
Right, and psychologically, it's so neat that they're now part of this process. Talk about empowering children, right?
Absolutely.
That you're part of this process. We're saving together, and you're going to go to college. It's not just an expectation. It's a matter of fact now.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely, it really is. And that's one of the benefits of a college savings plan. College savings plans really help families understand. It's a 2-generational approach, right? So the parent themselves say, I'm making this a priority. My child's going to college. The student now feels, hey, I'm going to college. My family believes into me. I have a college savings account. And so you're talking about, just really helping lift those expectations for college, or helping lift college expectations and helping that child actually achieve a college education.
And I agree with you 100%. I think I would almost maybe echo that, and by saying that sometimes having the child, and again, it's going to be different for each family, right? There's no one size fits all, but sitting down with them and actually almost working on, to a certain degree, a household budget with your children. Because it's easy to get caught up in, I want to keep up with the Jones next door, right? And they're going to Disney this year again. Why aren't we going to Disney? Why aren't I going to Disney? I want to see Mickey Mouse.
Right.
But to actually have them part of that conversation and say, listen, we have, there's an old saying, sometimes it's better to be anonymously rich than deceptively poor.
Right.
And so to take that, cash, we all have cash flow to a certain degree. For the most part, I'm generalizing now, income that's coming in. The question is, how much are we keeping of that income? And how are we leveraging that for the future? So I think it's important to sit down with your kids and say, hey, listen, we do have X amount of discretionary money that we could spend for a trip to Disney World this year, but guess what? I'd like to take that, and I'd like to take 50% of that and put it towards college for you guys. So to really kind of make them a part of this process and start to kind of formulate their thoughts on money and on saving.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that, typically families think about saving, and they think about short-term type items. They're saving for that next house. They're saving for that car. They're not really necessarily thinking about long-term aspirations, college education for their children, their own retirement. These conversations are important because now you're teaching your children to not only save for the shorter term items, but also for those long-term investments.
Kind of delay that gratification and plan for the future.
Absolutely. We're not talking about a short-term horizon of 3 to 5 years. We're talking about, 18 years, right. 40 years.
Correct.
And that's one of the number one questions that's probably right behind financial aid, whether or not college savings impacts financial aid. The next question that we always get is, I'm saving for retirement. Do I save for retirement or do I save for college? And the answer is both. You do both. And so you find ways within your budget to actually modify it and to find the resources to save towards retirement, to save for college education. Both of them are extremely important. And they're farsighted. So a lot of families say, that's down the road. It's very easy to forget about those items until you come upon high school graduation. Oh my gosh, it's high school time. My child's graduating next year and I have nothing in the college savings account. Had I been more proactive when my child was younger, maybe I would have had more resources to put towards this. And then you're getting into indebtedness and things of that sort, or maybe you're taking money out of your retirement plans to help pay for your child's aspirations, things that we really don't want to have to see you make those hard decisions to do.
No, it's a great point. So speaking, it's kind of go back to indebtedness and back to financial aid. So again, Walk our viewers through again the concept of financial aid. Again, you said earlier in the show, 80% of Americans, of households, are utilizing financial aid to some degree. And so what an impactful tool. Maybe walk us through a little bit kind of how that works again, and how people should be thinking about that and how that should play into their budget.
Yeah, so with financial aid, you have, your sticker price of tuition that we talked about, and then underneath that you have the financial aid that's given to give you the net price. And the net price is going to be pretty much your expected family contribution. So that's going to be the piece that you're expected to kind of come up with, is that net price. With the expected family contribution, there's two sources. One of them is a parent contribution and the other one is a student contribution. So when we're talking about how college savings vehicles impact financial aid, really what we're talking about is how college savings vehicles impact that expected family contribution. So we've talked about earlier, the sticker price minus financial aid gives you that net cost. And that net cost is where your expected family contribution is going to flow through. Expected family contribution has two different components. One of them is a parent contribution and the other component is the student contribution. Those can be further broken down from income and assets. And so with the student side, if you have a student has a savings account and they have $10,000 in that savings account, 20% is going to be assessed as part of the student contribution. On the family side or on the parent side, there are a lot of asset protections placed on the assets. So the value of your primary residence is excluded. The value of your retirement accounts is excluded. The value of your family-run business, that's all excluded. The rest of the assets are assessed on a graduated scale from 0 to 5.6%. And so if you have $10,000 sitting in a college savings account, you're looking at $560 being assessed into the parent contribution.
So if you're saying that the primary residence, the value of that family-owned business, their retirement savings, all these are excluded.
Yes.
Can you give us a few examples of some things that are included then?
Yeah. So if you own mutual funds, that would be included. If you have a checking account, savings account, all of those types of things would be included as part of your assets.
So you talked a little bit earlier about the expected family contribution piece of that. And I think you said it was on a graduated scale and it tops out at like 5.64%. So let's say that family has $10,000 saved. That means part of the calculation, they'd only be actually counting, $564? So how does that work?
At the most, they'd be calculating,
okay,
the $564. But you still have your $10,000 that you've saved,
right,
and you've saved it for college. So what that allows you to do is the rest of the account you could use to help pay maybe the rest of your expected family contribution. So the expected family contribution, at the end of the day, they're going to give you a number. That number is going to be, maybe it's going to be $10,000. They expect you to pay for your child's education. Of that $10,000, where did they derive that from? 564 of those dollars came from that $10,000 account. You might decide, I want to liquidate that account, put that entire $10,000 my child's freshman year in school, and then at that point, you don't have to take the lifestyle change when your child's in school. You don't have to take it from your current income. You have the resources there to help you. Or maybe you say, I'm going to take $5,000 out of that account. They're only expecting $564 out of that account, but I'm going to take $5,000 out of there so that my child doesn't have to take out some of those loans. And so I'm reducing my child's loan indebtedness that way.
Right.
And so that's another way. So really, when we look at whether or not college savings vehicles reduce your impact of financial aid, and that actually doesn't happen because of all the protections that are in place and because of the graduated scale. So you save the money, there is an assessment, no different than if you were to use, if you were to save it at all, if you were to put it into, into a savings account or a checking account, it's going to be assessed exactly the same. But there are specific vehicles that are out there that are designated for college savings that will give you, a lot of different benefits, and then you could use the entire account however you need to.
So you're talking about these benefits, and I mean, everything you've shared is riveting, and it makes a lot of sense to me. But I think, speaking for our viewers, I mean, it can feel a little bit daunting of a task. who can they work with to help them? The average viewer that's watching, Money Sense today, who can they work with to help them, just kind of steward them and navigate through this process?
From a financial preparation standpoint, you could use, if you have a tax accountant, someone who's helping you with your taxes, they're going to understand, the different college savings vehicles that are out there and the tax implications. If you use a financial advisor is going to be able to help you. If you use a financial coach is going to be able to help you. So there are different individuals within the communities that will help you, some of them for a fee and some of them are free resources.
To your point, I think some of the key takeaways is families should define that goal and objective, right? Create a plan to achieve that goal and objective and work the plan.
Absolutely. It's a three-step process.
Yeah, the three-legged stool. Mary, thank you. I know I feel like a better informed consumer to start on this journey of saving for college for my children.
Thank you. I really enjoyed myself.
And thank you for joining us today. I hope you had as much fun as I have. I'm your host, Anthony Contrucci, and remember, we always try to make finance fun.
This program is made possible by PSCA, the Plan Sponsor Council of America. For over 60 years, PSCA has served retirement plan sponsors through education, advocacy, and research. Information at psca.org or at 312-419-1863. This program was produced by Lakeshore Public Media and Centier Bank.